cannot tell you how much this book is. They're taunt you with teasers because I haven't had time to read it. I didn't really want to carry the road to San Diego for fear someone would scream, "He's cheating, he's got the book before publication." God knows a bunch of girls might have tackled me and taken the book, which is always kind of embarrassing when that happens. I don't do it for the crowd. So I have not read Silver Shadows, so all I can say is that last time we checked in, Sydney was in a world of trouble, as you guys probably know. And Adrian was sort of upset. Prone to doing stupid things when that happens, you know? Please welcome Richelle Mead.
Is the mic that's on me just for recording?
Yes.
This is the one I'm talking to? Okay. Good deal. All right. Well, hello. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. If you're like me, you had a lovely time in Seattle traffic, as usual, on weeknights. It's all worth it. We're all here. I am fighting a cold right now, so I am not going to read to you tonight. I usually start with like a 10-minute reading and then jump into questions. But I think I'll just go to questions early because if my voice is going to go out on me, I'd rather have you guys get in the stuff that you actually need from me. You know, you can read the book at home, all the tears and laughter and everything else that comes in Silver Shadows. Has anyone finished it yet? There's always like someone, wow, look at that. That's amazing. All right. It's been fun. It's been fun seeing the reactions to this book because there is some bad stuff that happens in it, like always, but I think there's some good stuff too. And I'm still getting grief from people over the bad stuff. They're like, "Can't you give them a break?" And I'm like, "I gave them some breaks, but it's never enough. Never enough for people." And I'll also make sure I finish in time before the registers close, so that if you do want to get any more books, you can. I brought a big box of random swag from home. I've got like t-shirts, foreign copies of my books. And if you buy Silver Shadows from the store, I'll give you something free from my swag box as long as supplies last. So I know that was the incentive you've been waiting for, not the exciting installment itself. And with that, let's get going. Who wants to be the brave first person who has a question for me about Bloodlines, Vampire Academy, movies, life? Yes.
How does it feel now that your book is actually turned into a movie? Something that came out of your brain is. How does it feel?
It's awesome. It's really incredible that it actually happened. Like I think sometimes there's this perception out in the world that like you just can call up this service and be like, "Yo, make my book into a movie." It's not that easy at all. And like so many authors just never even come nearly half as far as I did to have actually ended up with the finished product. So I am super happy about that. It's a little exhausting because whenever people come over to my house now, like we built this really cool media room and we're so excited to show it off. We're like, "Hey, you guys want to watch a movie in our media room?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, let's watch Vampire Academy." And I'm like, "Really, again?" So it's cool for my friends because they're like, "We're watching the movie at the author's house." And I do love the movie, but it's just like, can't we, look, we got Lord of the Rings on Blu-ray, can't we do that tonight? So you know, that's the first world problem with having a book made out of your movie. Other questions? I saw some other hands. Yeah, there.
What inspired the character Adrian?
What inspired the character of Adrian? Adrian was introduced in Frostbite, for those of you who remember way back when. And he was kind of meant to be a foil to Dimitri. You know, you've got Dimitri, Mr. Responsibility, tall, dark, and very serious and very stoic. And then here's Adrian Ivashkov, who's like Mr. Anti-Responsibility. And so that was where the idea came from, because I love having characters play off each other, and they were such a wild contrast to Rose, who is herself kind of torn between those personality types. She is very serious sometimes and very dedicated to her work, but she has a fun side too, and Adrian was kind of the temptation for that. And also, when I decided halfway through Vampire Academy I would do a spin-off, Adrian became the focus because he was so flawed and reckless, because I thought, wouldn't it be fun to send him on a transformation? I don't like characters who stay the same. We never stay the same. We're always changing too. And he was a great character to have brought through so many hardships, most of which he brings on himself. And to see him become semi-respectable, I mean, I don't know if he's there yet, but he's certainly made a lot of strides since Frostbite. Thanks. Yeah.
There's postings about Frostbite 2015. Are you making a movie? Has it been approved or anything?
Oh, Frostbite 2015. Yes. So So there is a movement among the producers of the Vampire Academy movie to make Frostbite. I don't know if it'll happen. I'm not actively involved in it. I think they're going to do some crowdsourcing in the hopes of getting funds for it. So if they ask me to, like, will you autograph some books as incentives, that'll be my involvement, because that's what I can do. I can autograph. I can't make movies. But that's as much as I know at the moment. So what you're seeing there, and people have kind of taken up Frostbite 2015 as a battle cry. They're trying to trend it, which is always sweet to see. That it doesn't. I don't know if that's going to raise the funds. I hope it does. I don't know. We'll have to see. It's all kind of a mystery at the moment. So what you're seeing is about as much as I know. Others there? Yes.
Respond to those devoted fans that find themselves disappointed in the portrayals of their beloved characters in the movie.
How do you respond to fans who are disappointed in the way the characters are portrayed? It's just the way of the world with books to movies. I have been that fan. I have seen a book I loved made into a movie. I'm like, oh, that's a good cat. Oh, what are you doing? And I shake my fist at them and tell them they ruined my book and all of that. And it's just the way it's always going to be. There are people who love every single actor in the Vampire Academy movie. There are people who hate every single actor. If we did a cast change, that would totally flip. Suddenly we'd have a new group of people who love them, a new group of people who hate them. It's the way books are. We see them in our head, and sometimes you get lucky and you can get a cast that matches your picture, but if it doesn't, that's how it is. And that was one of the reasons I was timid about making a movie for a long time. I remember back when the Vampire Academy movie was kind of dead in the water, Hunger Games was being cast, and I remember my Twitter feed just going crazy because people were so upset over who got chosen for PETA, and I was like, suckers, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that, I'm glad my movie's, nothing's happening with it, and then a year later, guess what, Richelle, here we are, and then suddenly there I was. So you just have to go with it. You can't take everything personally in any kind of entertainment business, for sure. Yeah.
I know with two little ones, you don't necessarily have a lot of time to do your own reading right now.
Mm-hmm.
But has anything come past you that has been recently published or is coming up that you would recommend as a reading?
That I would recommend. Amazingly, I actually read a lot more with a new baby because you're always feeding the baby, and so it's like you can have baby in one arm, book in the other. And I've gotten more reading done in the last 6 months than I think I have in the last 6 years. So I've been reading a lot of stuff. I read the first book of Lee Bardugo's Grisha trilogy. Shadow and Bone is the first book. It's like Russian high fantasy. It's very cool. It's young adult. I've read the first 2 books of the selection. I have the third one, so don't spoil it. I don't know who does she pick. So I'm waiting on that. And I've been reading, these have been out for a long time, Philippa Gregory's historical books. She wrote The Other Boleyn Girl, The White Queen historicals. I love historical stuff, and so I've kind of been burning through those as well. So those are my hot picks right now. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
How many littles do you have?
How many what?
Kids?
Oh, how many kids? I have 2 boys. I have a 6-month-old and a almost 3-year-old. So yeah, I'm totally outnumbered at my house. And when I was suggesting to my husband, oh gosh, maybe we should have a daughter to balance all this out. He's like, oh, you write about all that girl stuff already. You're set. So there we go. That's all I need. Yes.
I have a question about your female characters.
Mm-hmm.
People have this idea sometimes that in order for a woman to be strong, she has to be, the kick-ass, guns, and also, sort of sexy type thing. But you have your 3 main heroines are Alyssa, Rose, and Sydney, and they're all strong, like in their own different ways. Is that a conscious decision you made, or is that just the way you write when you're?
I try to write my main characters strong regardless. I'm not even sure I would know how to write like a weak-willed person. That wouldn't be very much fun to me. But I did, part of the reason I wanted Sydney in particular as a heroine is to show that contrast, because you're exactly right. Whenever I see people talking about like, oh wow, she's such a tough heroine, it's always the kick-ass ones, the ones that can punch a guy. And that's fantastic. I love watching that and reading that, but I don't know that that's necessarily realistic for people to think in our world, that, well, that's the only way you can be a tough woman. Sorry, if you can't, throw a right hook, you just can't make it in this world. Most of us are getting by on our wits and our brains, and that's kind of what I wanted to show with Sydney, especially to my teen readers, that, like, look, this is what's going to get you far in the world. You don't even have to be a genius like Sydney. Your mind is your weapon, and she definitely uses that to get her out of a lot of things. So yeah, for sure. Yes.
What inspired you to start Vampire?
What inspired me to start Vampire Academy? I had wanted to do a book for young adults. I had done two adult series at the time, the first books in the Dark Swan and Georgina Kincaid series. And after being a middle school teacher, I like teens, and I was like, that'd be cool to write a teen book series. So that was one piece of it. The other piece of it was that I had done all this research into Eastern European mythology when I was in college, and we had actually studied vampire stories in Romania and Russia, and it was just a really cool kind of basis, seeing where some of our more traditional stories come from. So that was another piece. And then the last thing was, I'd always had this love story kicking around in my head of this girl and her instructor and the wacky mishaps that ensue. And as often happens with a lot of my books, it's never one streamlined idea. It's a whole bunch of these little pieces that I suddenly put together and finally make into a book. And so all of those things just sort of came together, and that was Vampire Academy. Yes?
When you first interviewed Sydney back in Vampire Academy, did you intend for her to have her own series, or was this kind of a progression of the fans' reaction to her as well? Or?
I did not intend for Sydney to have her own series when she was introduced. Shortly after, I knew it was going to happen. I originally thought Jill would be the complete protagonist of my spin-off series early on. And then before I finished the Vampire Academy series, I just realized I wanted to shift it and kind of going back to the brainy heroine angle, and also because she is human, and I thought that would provide a new look into the Vampire Academy world. When you read a book, especially with a first-person narrator, your perceptions are colored by how they see it. And you can't always trust your narrator. And we'd read 6 books with Rose, who was born into this world, and it's totally normal. Yeah, there's the feeders, it's cool, that's how we roll. And then to see all that from a human who has not grown up in that world, it gives you a whole new outlook on it, because those feeders are totally not normal to Sydney. And Rose is a totally different person through Sydney's eyes versus Rose's own eyes. And so I just thought that would kind of open up the world more to us to see what a human thought of it all, especially one with as much baggage as Sydney starts off with. Is that a hand? Oh, you're just doing your hair. That's all right. Hand. There's a hand. For Bloodlines? Bloodlines is ending in February. Oh, I know, isn't that sad? And I'm sure I know what a follow-up question is going to be, which is, are there going to be any more Vampire Academy World spin-off series? And I don't know the answer to that for sure. I can tell you not right away. I will probably need to take a break for my own sanity. And also, if I do go back to that world, it'll make for a better book. Trust me on that, if I get a little break. What I might do in the meantime, though, if I do switch tracks into something totally new, is keep up with the world with like novellas or short stories or things, just because I know people like to check on those characters. And I know no matter what I do, because this is what happened with Last Sacrifice, no matter what I tried to do to end everything in the next book, which is called The Ruby Circle, it won't matter. People are still going to tell me it's not done. Like I could kill off every character in that book, and I'd open my inbox and it'd be like, well, Richelle, when are you going to write about Zombie Rose? So I know it will never be finished for readers, no matter what I do. I'll try to give you some. Now, look, I say that and I'm lying to you, because there is kind of a cliffhanger in the Ruby Circle already. Like, I'm trying to close it. I really am. I'm trying to like wrap everything up, but I left this hook for myself to come back to. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Thanks. Yes.
So I think I read somewhere where you kind of meticulously plot your books. Have you ever kind of addled with things as it goes along, or has any character surprised you?
Characters generally don't surprise me. It's funny, I just was chatting with some other authors about this, whether the characters tell you what to do or whether you tell them what to do. And I generally order mine around. They don't, run away with the book. But there are always surprises along the way, even when you're a plotter like me. I plan out each chapter, even the series. I can look ahead and say, okay, book 2 ends this way, 3, 4, 5, 6. But there's always a million little details that pop up along the way, little surprising things. Hopper in the Bloodline series was not part of the master plan. That was a last-minute addition. And after I wrote him into the book, I just kind of regretted it. I was like, I think I just gave Sydney a Disney sidekick. And people love him. So he's there to stay. I would get more hate mail than I did for Shadowkiss if I did something to Hopper. So he's in there because people love Hopper. So things like that just, that's what makes writing fun. If there were no surprises, I don't think it would be as good a job as it is. Yes?
Question about you as a writer here, a local writer.
Mm-hmm.
Do the other local writers that are maybe in the same genre do you guys ever get together and hang out?
Hang out and drink and talk about the industry. We do. And there are a number. In YA, Marissa Meyer lives down in Tacoma, so does Kimberly Durding. I just hung out with Kim actually a couple weeks ago. So we do. And I hang out with a number of the adult fantasy paranormal authors quite a bit as well, because that was the genre I started in, and so I've known them longer. We try to. It's funny though. Everyone's always so busy, and everyone's always got a deadline. No matter what you try to plan, someone's always on deadline. I can't make it. And it's funny. I end up seeing these people more often not in Seattle. We'll be at a convention somewhere, and it's all like, hey, and we hug like we're long lost things, and someone will say, oh, do you never see that person? I'm like, oh, we live a half hour apart, but we never have time until the work schedules align. But it's a super great thing, and I would encourage anyone who's writing, aspiring to write, to make writer friends, because it's a solitary job, and it does help you stay sane to just talk to other people who understand writer's block, and then when you're at a professional level, just all the industry shenanigans that go on. It's good to have that kind of workplace feel. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yep, there we go. You. Yep.
When did you decide that you wanted to be an author?
When did I decide I wanted to be an author? When I was in elementary school, actually. I loved stories. I just was always reading from a very young age. And I would just start to make my own picture books after a while. I had a short story published when I was 9 years old in a children's magazine about a mermaid. And I think this magazine no longer exists, so I think I can put it online now, like the story. I need to, because it's pretty funny. But so from that early of an age, I was thinking about it and kind of dabbling around with it. But it wasn't until I'd say my late 20s that I really cracked down and got serious about it. I had other careers along the way, and we just got sidetracked by life. But I think that was a good thing, because I'm not sure I could have written the books I've written if, say, I tried to do it straight out of college. I think I had to live a little and get experience, and I think I find that's true for a lot of authors. There are definitely prodigies out there who can churn out a book in their teens, but I find a lot of authors are like me, come to it later, 20s, 30s, 40s, or even beyond, because you just kind of, you need the writing know-how and the life know-how, for sure, to make it work. Mm-hmm. And then there's a question next to you. Yeah?
Does it ever blow you away how much fan fiction there is based on your books? Because seriously, I'm thinking on the internet right now.
How much does it blow me away? I don't read the fan fiction, so it's too weird for me. And I don't mean that as a judgment on it, but although there is, I'm sure, some weird stuff out there. It's just very strange for me to think of people doing that, and they're welcome to do it, so long as they aren't making money off it, I hope. But it's just something I've stayed away from. Fan fiction is still a weird thing to me. I don't know what I would have done though, in the 80s, if we'd had the internet and fan fiction, and I could have written She-Ra and Gem and the Holograms fan fiction. I might have a whole different take on fan fiction if I had been actively part of that in my youth, but not so much now. Mm-hmm. All right, we're still, we'll do a couple more, I think. We're still good on time. I'm chatting fast. So yeah, in the back there. Yep. Yes, you.
Dark Swan comic book series.
Oh, Dark Swan comic book. I thought you were going to ask me about Dark Swan book 5.
Or that too.
Oh, I set myself up. Dark Swan comic book series is indefinitely on hold. This is, the things I control are like the words you see on the page in the books that you're holding. Everything else beyond that, like especially when they get turned into other things, movies and comic books, like I have no idea what goes on. Last I heard, they were taking a break to reevaluate things, and they assured me it's coming back and it's going to be extra awesome, but your guess is as good as mine on that. I'll definitely make a shout out online though when I hear more about that. And Dark Swan 5 is also kind of in limbo. I fully admit that Dark Swan 4 was not the most solid ending in the world, and I know people really want to see more. So that's there in the back of my mind for whenever I get a break in the contracts. So I haven't forgotten Eugenie and Dorian. Someday I'll get back. Yep. And there's a question you in the green. Yeah.
I guess part of it was that. But is there a question that you've been like dying for somebody to ask you? You're like, yes, this is my moment to shine.
Not when I'm here. When I'm actually like out and about in the world and in my car, I'll be thinking ahead, like, oh, I got a signing tonight. I wonder what I'll talk about. And I'll have like these really beautifully eloquent and hilarious answers to things. But like when I'm here right now, like I don't know what any of those questions are. So yeah, I know my hilarity is wasted. Yeah. Maybe someone else has a better question. Other questions? I keep like seeing hands in my periphery and then they go down. It's like they're. Yep. All right. Yes.
So obviously you just said that you don't have any plans for a spin-off of the Bloodlines books.
Mm-hmm.
But are there any characters from those books that you feel might pester you to be written at some point? Or just kind of flip the creative switch?
If I know, see, I don't want to tell you guys this because you're gonna tell the internet, and the internet is loud. There's already there's like an online petition that someone has started for like a 7th Vampire Academy book, and each time someone signs it, I get like a notification in my inbox. So it's like I know you want it. Anyways, if I was going to write more in the Vampire Academy world, I would actually go back to Rose and Dimitri. So I know. See, that's why I didn't want to talk about it. But I'm also saying I don't have any immediate plans to go back to them. But if I do, it would probably be them versus another character. For a while there, I did think about like Jill and Eddie because they're kind of getting dragged along in the Bloodline series with some unfinished things. But we'll see if I can at least wrap them up in the Ruby Circle. There's this thing that's going to happen in the Ruby Circle. Which is the last book of the Bloodline series, which is being seeded right now before your eyes, and I don't think people realize what's happening, and I hope they don't. But it's going to like blow people's minds, and it is going to make people demand I keep writing more, and that's all I can say. There's a big twist coming. So yeah. Yes.
But usually when you do, there's usually inevitably some little fun behind the scenes, something or other that you'll throw out, like, oh, when I was writing this is what, the conversation happened behind the scenes. Did you have something that you were thinking about reading tonight?
I didn't. I usually actually, for my first signing for a new book, I usually pick my reading in the car right over. So I knew early on tonight that I wasn't going to be reading, so I didn't look it up. Fun behind-the-scenes story about the writing of Silver Shadows. Well, I was pregnant with my youngest son while writing Silver Shadows, which it was not fun. He's adorable and he's the most good-natured, smiley baby ever. But his pregnancy was just pretty exhausting, and so I was always tired and I was always late on deadline. And Silver Shadows is a really dark book, and it's really hard to get into that place, especially some of the torture parts, when you just want to go put up elephants in your baby's pastel nursery. And my editor read the first draft of Silver Shadows, and she's like, I can't remember how she put it. She's like, this kind of works out really simplistically. Like they're kind of getting off easy. Like all the problems we're solving really, it's like, oh great, there's the solution. No worries at all. She's like, you got to make them work for it. It's got to be harder. And I was like, I'm just not in that mood where I want them to suffer anymore. Can't this be a happy book? And I was like, well, you should have thought about that before you ended Fiery Heart that way. So that's probably the biggest story is that it was definitely the mind you're in has a huge impact on the book that you're writing. I can say that for sure. I think if I tried to write any of my other past books now, like even if I had notes, this happens in chapter 1, the person and mood I'm in would be different than the one who wrote chapter 1 of Shadow Kiss however many years ago. So yeah, definitely big impact. Okay, let's do a couple more. I know I said that, but then I keep thinking we have more time. We're gonna do a couple more for sure, and then we'll get you to signing so you can get books if you want. You standing there.
How would you describe your writing process as a whole?
My writing process as a whole, structured. It's become very structured, more so than when I first started out. I finished, I remember revising Vampire Academy Book 1 many years ago before I had kids or anything. Like pulling an all-nighter. I was like alternating going to Starbucks and chugging Frappuccinos and then having drip coffee and using instant coffee as like creamer. Like, you know, those international foods, like I was pouring that in like to stay awake so that I would like be wired, you know, must finish book. And like now that cannot even happen with kids, or they would not get taken care of and nothing would happen. So it's become very structured, not just like the way I plan the books, but just my writing day. You know, the kids, I have people taking care of them, and I know I have 4 hours, and if I don't get that chapter done, it's going to hurt, you know, when deadline time comes around. So I definitely have to do that, and I also have to, also in the back of my mind, keep track of promotion things. Like that's the other part of writing. You, in this day and age, you really have to be active on Twitter and Facebook and all of those, and let people know what's going on. Like even for this signing, I've had to make mental notes for myself. Okay, when I'm at the computer, make sure I remind people about you books, because there's always someone. Like tomorrow someone's going to email me, why don't you ever sign in Seattle? Like seriously, that happens every time I have a signing because someone has missed the other 10 announcements, and so it's just a lot, and I have to just keep track of it all. Really, it's time management. That's the key. I answered your question. Hang on a sec. You, yes, yep, you.
Okay, you were talking about potentially spinning off a book for Rose and Dimitri again.
Oh, I shouldn't have told you guys that. Yes.
Actually, no. One couple that has always struck my curiosity are Rose's parents, like a prequel, like how did Abe
That is a big fan question, and a lot of people want to know how in the world did that happen? How did Rose Hathaway come about? That's an excellent question. When I was saying that if I don't dive into a new series, but if I do stories and novellas, that would probably be one that I would do. Janine and Abe, just because it is such a fan requested thing, and it would be kind of fun, and so it could happen. And another fan request I get a lot, which actually exists, so this is why I'm telling you guys, is I'm still emailed constantly. People want Rose and Dimitri to go visit his family in Russia, to tell them he's not Strigoi. That story exists, if you don't know. It's in an anthology called Foretold, which University Books does sell. So just giving you a heads up on that, because that gets asked for a lot too. And on that note, I think we're going to move off into signing. If you have other questions, you can ask me at the signing table. And I have a couple of things I'm going to throw out before we do that. I'm happy to take pictures. They'll put like a little chair you can sit in and pose with me, and it'll be awesome if you want to do that. No selfies. At my last signing, people were like wanting to do it all. Like, let's do a pose picture, let's do a selfie, let's do this, and it just drags down the line. So if you want a picture, that's cool, but we'll just do the posed ones. And leave it at that. So give us a heads up when you're at the signing table, and get a friend who knows how to use your camera. And also, again, if you bought Silver Shadows from the store, if my swag holds out, I'll give you something fun for your time and effort, so remind me of that. And otherwise, hopefully someone from the store is going to come take over and tell you where to go now. So stay where you're at, stay where you're at. Yeah, where's Dwayne? He's usually... And also, if you don't also know, Arcane Vault is in the store tonight, who makes lovely Vampire Academy merchandise, so make sure you visit them and see what they have up for grabs.
I'm sorry, I missed that last thing you said.
Arcane Vault. Where are they set up? I didn't even see you guys over there. Yes. They do all kinds of very, very nice merchandise. They do t-shirts, bookmarks. My iPhone case, actually, this is the best. Like, and I'm not just saying this because it's like my logo. This is the best iPhone case I've ever had that they do. So check that out. Yes, they sell prints. That's one of my favorites, Rose and Dimitri in a training session, as the kids are calling it these days. And, other stuff. So yeah, take a gander at them, especially if you're like waiting in a line, you know, like have your friend hold your spot, go check it out. It'll be good times. All right, I'm waiting for Dwayne to come back. Let's do another question since we're hanging out here, guys. Yes?
So you introduced a lot of new characters in Silver Shadows. Will we see any of them in Ruby Circle?
You will see some of the new characters from Silver Shadows in Ruby Circle, but you'll be happy to know you're also going to see a lot of your old favorites from Vampire Academy. Kind of the band's getting back together in Ruby Circle because some stuff is going down, and it's going to need more than just Sydney and Adrian on that one. So there's a lot of good times there. Yep. Other stuff. Oh wow, there's all sorts of questions that are popping up. Okay. Okay, well, so the question, we're doing questions while we wait for signing. This is all, so you haven't finished Fiery Heart and you want to know if Sydney's sister opens up. She does, but probably not in the way you're thinking. There's some stuff that goes down with her, so that's all I'll say. Yeah, keep reading. Keep reading. Yes.
Quick question. So, book signings, I know you're doing Cure this time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like a dream location for doing a book signing? Like if you could go anywhere in the world?
If I could go anywhere in the world, like they actually asked me to go to Paris, and I keep turning them down, and the French are getting mad at me. Like you can tell.
They don't like Americans.
I would like to go to Hawaii. I think I would love to sign there, but the publisher who generally pays for my trips tends to go where the most book sales are going to happen, and I don't know. I need to start a big movement in Hawaii maybe to get that. But yeah, I should get back on the road a little bit more next year when the baby's bigger. So I may get out in the world. I don't know to where yet. So yeah, it's hard. If you have kids at home, you know what it's like leaving them for. Like even now being here, I'm convinced like my house is going to burn down while my husband watches the kids, and so it's like, oh, I hope they're okay, and he keeps sending me pictures. Look, they're still alive. It's all good. So the thought of touring again is still a little daunting. To like be on a completely different coast from them is scary. Oh, I see Dwayne. Yay! Dwayne, by the way, is wearing an Arcane Vault T-shirt. I don't know if anyone noticed that. Now everyone's going to look at Dwayne. Oh, well, I don't want to interfere with people buying books for sure. We're just chatting and answering more questions. I'm ready to sign. We're good to go.